Hey everybody, doing a little something different today. This is the third video in a series where I'm taking some toys that McDonald's made for a limited edition adult Happy Meal and recreating them to be 3D printed. Now I 3D printed these at half size. I think that the original toys were probably a little closer to this size, but I had my own reason for designing them half size. Also, these toys all kind of had a weird aesthetic. I am also taking and making a more traditional look for them and giving them a little bit more of a playful pose. Now, like I said, today we're working on the third one, which is Birdie, probably the most complex of all of the models and quite a challenge. Now, in previous videos, I kind of talked over some of the modeling process as I modeled it, but in this video, I'm just going to do the entire modeling process and narrate over it as I condense that process from several hours to a more watchable format. So let's get on that. But before we do, I have a quote that I would like to share with you, one that I found inspiring and I hope may uplift you. It goes, "Those who move forward with a happy spirit will find that things always work out." So let's start that modeling now. I decided on this one to actually start with the reference image. In previous ones in this series, I started with just the rough modeling from memory without looking at the reference image and then matching it to the reference image afterwards. Now, my thinking at the time was that it would be faster just to kind of rough it out as quickly as possible and then go back and match it. And I'm not really sure whether that actually was faster or slower. I will say that I'm spending a lot more time fiddling at this point as opposed to just getting the model up. It's requiring a different sort of focus to get this done. And I'm not opposed to that. I kind of enjoy doing things in a different way, but if the question is which one allows me to get the job done faster, I guess the jury's still out on that one. Now, this rough blocking, this modeling it out, you'll notice that I am not putting everything exactly to the reference image, especially on the arm there. I'm planning on moving this with an armature, with a rig afterwards, so I'm not worried so much about it being in the right pose, but I am worried about it being the right shape for now. So I'm designing it to be modeled afterwards, and I am just basically bringing in cubes, subdivision surfacing them, and making their overall general geometry match the reference image, match what I want it to be. You know, another thing that's fun about this particular model is that despite the weird aesthetic, it still looks very much like the Birdie that I'm familiar with. Although I will say that it's been interesting in this project, going back and learning more about these characters and the history of them. These models, these characters have undergone a lot of changes over the years, and it's been kind of fun to learn about that and move forward with that knowledge. But like I said, in the 80s, this looks a lot like the Birdie that I'm used to. I was a little bit worried when I started modeling the hair that I'd have to do the same thing I did on the Hamburglar and do some sculpting. But, you know, after I checked it out and I found a reference image for the back of the head, I found that I could do it all with just subdivision surfaced cubes if I put creases in the right place. So the hair was actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Of course, there's still the ponytails and the bows and all of that. I wasn't quite sure what the shape of the ponytails was supposed to be. It was hard to see from the reference images I could find, but I think I did the best I could with what I had. Then it was time to start modeling the faces. And of course, I'm starting with the weird face with the 4 eyes, but it was going to be super easy later on just to turn that into a regular sort of more traditional face. And I did this using the same technique that I've done before, which is flat objects, shrink wrap to the face, solidified out, and then subdivision surfaced to make them smooth. And what's good is that this makes some nice hard edges, so it's super easy later to find the different areas that need to be different colors, generally speaking. The last little detail I had to model were the goggles, and I noticed that in the weird head they had two sets of goggles. Well, I guess that makes sense with the two sets of eyes. Unfortunately, that wasn't too difficult to do. I just had to model one set, get it right, get it where I wanted, and then duplicate it and rotate it to the back of the head. And so that took care of that really well. Now, as a last bit of detail, I wanted to warble the prints, add a little bit of irregularity to it to kind of, break the symmetry of it, make it look a little bit more hand molded, even though it's completely molded into computer. And I did this with two levels like I did before. A larger one on the base meshes and then a smaller one to kind of give a final surface warble to it. And I did this kind of after the fact, and that ended up being a lot more work than I anticipated. Selecting each model, adding the warble, then adjusting it in the stack so that they were in the correct places. If I had this to do over again, I might do the warbles as I'm going. Make sure to get that right as I'm working, so that I'm not spending a lot of time adjusting the warbles on every individual object, mostly because there's a lot of objects in this model. So next I make the rig for it, the skeleton as it were, and I'm not trying to make anything fancy. Not going to be doing any inverse kinematics. I'm not going to be trying to make this fit to rigify. I just made the simplest skeleton I could that would move the parts that I wanted to, so that I could get the two poses that I needed for 3D printing. Didn't need to be fancy. I worked on the left side, named all the bones with a .L, and then used a Symmetrize to get the other side for free. Then I did a quick detour to model the traditional face, because I realized that I hadn't done that yet, but it was easy to modify that from the weird face. And then it was time to do the weight painting. Now, weight painting is something that's not very exciting, and I haven't shown it in a lot of previous videos because of that. But what it involves is you take the objects, you parent them to the skeleton with automatic weights. Then what I do is I move the skeleton into this wild pose, and I see which parts aren't reacting well to that. Now, sometimes the two legs will interfere with each other, but this time the biggest offenders were all the parts that needed to be shrunk wrapped to another part and then solidified. So what I ended up doing was just going through their vertex groups, removing all influence from anything else, and then parenting them to basically one bone after that. And that involved the face and the M, and just working piece by piece, because there are so many individual pieces on this one. It was a little bit of work to get that right. So with the rig all ready and everything reacting well, I made my two poses. Now, I wanted Birdie to kind of be flossing a little bit. That was my vision for it. But I realized that if I raised the wing up just a little bit, that it might hold up the ponytail just a little bit, so that maybe I could minimize the need or the amount of supports necessary. Now, Blender does have a pose library, but I've still got a lot to learn about it. So instead of using the pose library properly, I just put one pose on frame 0 and the other pose on frame 10. So I guess in a way they were animated just a little bit. But once that was done, I created one unified object with all of the objects in it Boolean together and exported them. Then I brought those objects into 3D Builder to correct the mesh. Once those meshes were all ready to go, I brought it into Bamboo Slicer and started painting it up. Now, painting in Bamboo Slicer is actually really, really easy and really, really intuitive. I'm impressed with it, but this particular model had a problem. The original toy had no less than 7 colors in it. But I only have a 4-color AMS changer. So I had to think of this one on a limited palette. And I had to do the same thing on the Hamburglar as well. So instead of Birdie having an orange beak and yellow skin, she basically has a yellow beak as well. Instead of her having a purple jumper, I made the jumper red, same as her hair. I wondered if I could be real clever and figure out a way that I could maybe change colors part way up and use a different color, but especially with that more playful side flossing pose, there just was no option for that. So I just did the best that I could with the limited palette that I had, and I'm not disappointed with the way that it turned out. So let's throw this at the 3D printer and see what comes out. And this one is going to have a lot of support, so I hope that you're looking forward to putting on your headphones and enjoying that ASMR support removal sound. Let's do that. Well, that was a little bit heartbreaking, or more specifically, foot breaking. I managed to break 3 of the feet off, and that just... But you also might notice that there is an imperfection in the print. During the print, if you go back and look at time lapse of the print, you'll see that my poop chute the place where it purges out the back of the filament got full, and whenever that happens, it causes problems, and it caused problems. And that's my fault. I should have cleaned that out a little bit. Now I'm going to try to fix this, get a little knife, see if I can break these off and re-glue them. You might not have known it, but I had to do a little correction on the Hamburglar too, because the print actually canceled when I accidentally hit the stop button. But, you know, if you're just looking at it normally, you don't see that. So, you know, these little fixes, these little imperfections, it's fine. I'll fix this. It'll turn out all right. No need to reprint them. And then I'm going to have to glue the feet on. But now, here's the thing that I want to talk about as far as the next one goes. This is the third in the series. So we've got Grimace, the Hamburglar, and Birdie. Now the fourth one in the official series is an original character, the Cactus Buddy. And I could do the Cactus Buddy. It's basically just a smiley face with a body, has a t-shirt and a baseball cap on. That's all it is. However, does anybody really want that? I still feel like I need at least 4 characters, because I feel like you need 4 characters to play any sort of board game with, which is kind of what I'm thinking could be done with these characters. So, what if we use one of the other characters from McDonald's Land? And there's a lot of characters. Of course, there's Ronald, there's Mayor McCheese, there's the Big Mac, who's the kind of sheriff. And I'm kind of curious which one you guys would like done if you could choose what character will be the fourth one. It could be the original Cactus Buddy, or it could be any other character from McDonald's Land. Sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think I should do for this last one. But I think that's it for today. This is coming along nicely. I'm really proud of the way these turned out, and I'm excited to do the next one. Which one should I do? Thank you very much for watching. Remember, you are a child of God, and you're special, so take care of yourself. And if you can, take care of somebody else too. We'll see you next time.